So in this video, it is day 4 with my new Mustang Denali. Today he is going to be moving to the barn. He's going to be leaving the round pen where all my Mustangs start their gentling and walk all the way up to the barn to further his training. Most of the Mustangs get sticky feet when it comes to actually leaving the round pen, and I usually let them take their time with it, and if they need to sniff around and check stuff out before they actually leave, it doesn't bother me. I'm fine with that. So I gave him his chance to smell around, and now we're going to start actually walking out. And I'm just taking my time with him. It's usually a little bit intimidating for them at first, so I really don't mind pausing a lot and letting them check out their surroundings. He's not extremely confident in leading yet. He knows what forward movement is, but he does try and walk behind me sometimes. He doesn't fully understand to stay at my shoulder, and this is only his second day leading, so it's not that big of a problem. I'm just going to help guide him. And once he gets ahead of me, I'll kind of just help guide him back with my hand, and if it gets too serious, you'll see me back him up. Right here we have some stuff against the fence, and it's pretty much the only thing he actually looked at, and I really liked how brave he was wanting to walk up and check it out. And once he did that, he really didn't seem to pay much attention to it. But when we did want to keep walking forward after this, he got some sticky feet and he didn't really want to move forward. He wanted to back up, and I wasn't sure if that was just being bound to the round pen, just being stubborn or what, but all I really did was stick with it and help guide him forward to keep walking. It's not like he's being super reactive backing up. It's not too big of a deal. It's just something we have to work through. And once he gets that forward motion, he's pretty much all good. Right here is a pretty good example of how he likes to walk behind me. He pretty much just wants to stay directly behind me. But we just are going to keep pulling him forward just a little bit to get him to walk next to my shoulder. And once he gets that consistent movement, he does start to get it. As we're walking to our left, there are some water troughs and some hoses all bundled up, and he didn't seem to pay too much attention to it. He did want to look at it, but overall he wasn't bothered by it, which I liked because a lot of the Mustangs will kind of look at that and maybe be a little bit nervous around it, but he didn't seem to mind it too much. And whenever he doesn't want to stand still and tries to push through me like he did just a second ago, all I do is keep my cool and just back him up and wait for him to back off before we walk forward. Good job. Right here, I decide to stop so that the gate can get opened, and he wants to keep moving forward. So I work on backing him off, and he gets a little grumpy about that. And once he's a little bit more comfortable around people, him being nippy is something that we'll tackle. Good boy. Okay. You can see he's starting to get a lot more forward in his walk, and right there he gets ahead of me, but I just kind of bump him with the rope, and then he decides to stop. So he's very back and forth. He's either forward or he stays back. And he gets a little bit nervous walking in, and there's horses at the fence, but he does keep his cool. You know, you can see he's watching, but he's not reacting, which is really great. And all the horses kind of come up to the fence, and he doesn't mind them too much. And I really do like that, how he handled himself with that. He did really good.
Good boy. Oh.
He's definitely not totally happy with the idea of having to stop walking and hang out for a second, but I did want to rub on him for a little bit before I kept moving him forward, because he is handling all this really well, and I want to make sure I'm not just full on walking the entire time. He does need a few seconds where he can get praised and loved on.
Good job, buddy. Being so good. Okay. Okay.
As you can see, as we're walking up, there's a lot of little obstacles scattered around, and he didn't mind them too much. He watches them a little bit, and coming up, when we get close to my balance beam, that's the most he really reacts. He does stop and wants to back up a little bit. Him wanting to back away from the balance beam isn't too big of a reaction. It's not super complicated to handle. I'm just going to keep holding pressure and keep guiding him forward. And then he finally gets out of that little sticky feet rut he was in and just continues forward. And as you can see, his ears go and he watches stuff, but he doesn't seem to mind. At this point, he's kind of just cruising along. You know, he's walking really consistently and he's watching everything, but he's still moving forward and he's just walking really great. Going into the barn for the first time is usually pretty nerve-wracking for these guys. I mean, they were wild and have never seen anything like this, but Denali was really confident taking those initial steps inside. I was really happy with that. He didn't mind stepping up to it, but he was kind of nervous to fully walk through, so I had to play around with him a little bit. I didn't want him to get too freaked out, so I wanted to make sure we did a lot of pressure and release, and he got a lot of verbal praise. And when I got a chance to go up and give him some physical praise, because he was being really good and really brave. And he had a few moments where he would go in and then decide to back out instead of continue moving forward. But we were just going to have to do a little bit of a back and forth play-by-play, doing the same exact exercises, not getting all worked up, just acting like it was no big deal, staying cool. And, you know, I understand how nerve-wracking it is, so I can't really get mad at him for not wanting to walk in. It's so different than what he's been used to his entire life. But he finally walks on in. He does really good. I give him a chance to take it all in and praise him. And he's a little bit nervous, but he's handling it so well. He was really nervous to walk into his stall, and that's understandable. So I wanted to do some pressure and release, getting him to step up to it. And I just wanted him to take his time and just take it all in. And, you know, he is brave. He will walk up to it. He was just nervous to fully walk in. So I let him take his time. I want him to be able to check it out and see what it is. He is extremely food motivated, so I decided to grab a handful of hay that was in there. just as some extra reinforcement. I figured it would help him, and it did. Once he saw that, he was like, oh, it's okay in there. He wanted to come and grab the food, and I don't see anything wrong with that. It gives him a chance to see that it's okay and get something out of it that also reinforces the fact that it's okay in there. And so I made sure he could eat in there and hung out with him for a second, rubbed all over him. I wanted him to be comfortable and realize that nothing bad's going to happen to him inside the stall. Overall, it was extremely uneventful. He handled the entire process so amazing, and I was really proud of him.